Hi, you guys. Welcome back to Meaningful Motivations with Tracy Erickson. And of course, if you are new to this channel, welcome. My name is Tracy Erickson, and it is October once again. So that means it is time for Halloween Spooktacular, where I talk about the darker side of spirituality on my channel. In this video, I'm going to be telling you guys about a haunted graveyard that I visited in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. So stay tuned. In June, some friends and I decided to go visit Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, specifically because my friend Bergen is from Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, and so she just wanted to show us her old stomping grounds. And of course, as soon as I found out that we were going to be taking a little trip to Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, one of the first questions I asked my friend Bergen was, is there anything haunted that we could go visit while we're there? Bergen sent me a link to wisconsinfrights.com, which was a link to St. Kilian's Cemetery in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. And on that link, it said, visitors to St. Kilian's Catholic Cemetery in Lake Geneva have heard footsteps and voices, chains rattling, and a phantom bell ringing from the church that burned down more than 20 years ago. A spectral priest has been seen wandering among the gravestones, as well as a mist that moves from grave to grave. The church that once stood in the cemetery was old and condemned. The fire department burned it to the ground following numerous eyewitness reports of satanic rituals, black masses, and animal sacrifices taking place in the basement of the building. That definitely sounded spooky. A church that was burnt down due to satanic rituals, and a mist-like figure moving around the graves, and even a priest that haunts the graveyard. The church was named after St. Kilian, who first served as an Irish monk, and one of his major contributions to the Christian faith was his evangelization of Franconia. And Franconia is a region of Germany characterized by its culture and East Franconian dialect. For over 125 years, the St. Kilian Catholic Church was known as the Little Cathedral in the country. Today, the only thing that remains of St. Kilian, the church, is the small cemetery and a marker that sits on the exact spot where this little cathedral in the country once stood. So eventually, the church just deteriorated and was no longer usable as a place of worship. So it was kind of like an abandoned church in the middle of the country. And this church then became home to people who would do satanic rituals in the basement of the church. And so after many reports of these satanic rituals taking place within St. Kilian's Catholic Church, that is when the Lake Geneva Fire Department decided to use this church for training, and they burned it down. Due to those satanic rituals that were said to take place in the basement, many people in Lake Geneva believe that some kind of dark demonic portal had been opened up at the place where St. Kilian's Church once stood. And many people also believe that it was this energy, this dark energy called upon by these Satanists that has now caused the graveyard there to remain haunted even to this day. Before visiting St. Kilian's Catholic Cemetery, I decided to do a little research into the hauntings that take place there so that I would know exactly what to expect. So I visited WisconsinHauntedHouses.com, and then I noticed that 4 people had left a review about St. Kilian's. So the first one says that there is a lot of dark energy there. Not sure if the rumors that is a satanic church have any truth. Probably not. But people going there desecrating the headstones, metal crosses, or screwing around in the church's basement with satanic stuff for kicks had an effect. I went around sunset. It was a very weird feeling on the west side by the old graves. Any graveyard or cemetery that has its headstones vandalized will become active at least for a while. St. Kilian's was constantly being vandalized. Even the Jesus on the cross had 666 painted in red on it. The second person said it was their first experience. They wrote, "The first time we went here, we found it by accident. We are amateur ghost hunters and decided to stop while walking through, had heavy chest feelings, and got serious headaches when we got back in the car. Something tried to drain our battery while leaving. We heard the sound of church bells, followed by a screaming in my driver's window." The third person also heard screaming. They said, "We recorded it and heard screaming in the video when we were watching." And the fourth person said they didn't believe until they went there. They wrote, "Wife and I went there fall of 2016. After researching the church and activities there with our little equipment, we were able to pick up EVP as well as some names after checking the headstones in daylight. We located them from the names given. We experienced warm and cold spots. Wife is very sensitive third eye. And experienced heavy-chested feelings. They will go back." I found it interesting that someone had stated that something was happening with their car battery when they were trying to leave the cemetery. And on hauntedplaces.org, there was another comment by a user who stated, "My mom's car battery died and I was there and it was a brand new car battery." And I found that so interesting because many times ghosts or spirits that are lingering here on Earth do like to mess with electronics or energy. And a battery is nothing but basically an energy holder. And of course, on hauntedplaces.org, I did find that some of the commenters are skeptics, while some are believers. One user wrote, "The fire department burned it down for practice. People are crazy, just making stuff up. It was long condemned before the burning." Another user wrote, "A Ouija board was brought there. Just because you don't believe doesn't mean other people shouldn't. If you mess with the devil, you invite him in your life. It's not just the graveyard, you take evil with you. And paranormal activity can happen to anyone who invited him in, not just because this sounds like a scary story, but because this stuff actually does happen." Another user wrote, "I walked through there at night and heard footsteps and a bell ringing and a chain rattling. Definitely something going on there." And someone replied, "I recall the same thing. Went through at night 25 years ago." Another user wrote, "Check Shadowlands for the update from years ago. That was my update. The church, before it was burned down as a training exercise, was used for Satan worship. I had first-hand witnessed it. The phantom bell is coming from a house in the distance at someone's house. The smell is coming from stagnant wetland swamp between the cemetery and the homes. The only paranormal activity witnessed was a strange mist that disappeared when approaching a shadow that moved from tombstone to tombstone. The Jesus statue doesn't cry or bleed. That's an urban legend, and it has no basis in fact. nor has it ever been witnessed or photographed. When I read that review that mentioned the Jesus statue, it reminded me that my friend Bergen, when she told me about St. Kilian's, also mentioned that there's a Jesus statue there. And it is legend that the eyes glow red at certain times. So I did know that that was another one of those little urban legends going around. So I was pretty excited to go visit this cemetery and see this Jesus statue as well. When the time came for my friend Bergen to finally take me to visit St. Kilian's Catholic Cemetery, I was so excited to see if I could feel any of these spooky, creepy feelings, or if I could hear any of these strange sounds, or even witness a mist walking around the tombstones. One of the first things I noticed when we arrived was, of course, the Jesus statue. It is very prominent right as you come into the graveyard, because it is one of the largest statues, obviously, that you can see there. As I was gazing at the Jesus statue, I realized that I didn't have any creepy, heavy feelings while looking at the statue. And of course, I also don't really believe that the eyes ever glow red. To be honest, I didn't really find, at least on the internet, I didn't find any eyewitness accounts of this taking place. And I also just don't see how that could possibly even happen. So, to be honest, that part of the story is definitely just an urban legend. As I continued to explore St. Kilian's Catholic Cemetery, I realized that many of the ones who were laid to rest there actually died in the late 1800s and the early 1900s. So this graveyard is full of history. And when something is full of history, it definitely has collected energies from all of the different people that have come and gone over the years. But also, it collects some kind of clout on the street, if you know what I mean. So whenever something has been around for a really long time, the human mind starts to create these stories surrounding those locations just because they've been around and because history leaves its own mark. It's like when you walk into St. Kilian's Catholic Cemetery, you are confronted with the ghosts of the past in the form of these old tombstones. The St. Kilian's Cemetery does have a very obscure history when it comes to these possible satanic rituals that were taking place in the basement when the church was abandoned, all the way to what is the real reason why the fire department burned the church down. Some say it was burned down because of those satanic rituals that were taking place there. And some say it was simply burnt down as a way for the fire department to have practice. While many people stated that they got these creepy, dark feelings while they were there, either at sunset or at night, the cemetery is only open from dawn until dusk. So I visited the cemetery during the hours it was open, during the daylight hours. And while I was there, I found it to be a very peaceful resting place for all of these old bodies that died so long ago. But I could definitely see how such an old graveyard with such an obscure history could cause the minds of the local residents to begin to come up with these stories of hauntings and of chains and bells, and even of a priest that endlessly walks the graveyard at night. So what do you guys think? Do you think that St. Kilian's Catholic cemetery is actually haunted? Or do you think it's more like an urban legend created by the residents of Lake Geneva, Wisconsin? I would love to know your thoughts, so put them down in the comments down below. And if you have had a haunted experience at St. Kilian's, I would love to hear about it. So definitely put that down in the comments. Well, that about wraps it up for this video. So if you like this video, be sure to click that like button and share it around with all your friends out there. And of course, if you're a viewer but not yet a subscriber, I would love for you to click subscribe down below. And once you have subscribed, you can turn on the notifications bell if you would like to be notified each and every time I upload a new video. Thank you guys so much for watching and spending your time with me. I love you. And I'll see you next time. Bye.